Well, thank you so much, Fanny, for the introduction, and hello to everyone wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in. I'm really happy today to talk to this group. For those of you who are interested in where we are with our dam safety program here in Alabama, we have had the distinction of being the only state in the country without a dam safety program. And it has been quite a journey to get to the point where we are today. I've got some really good news to share with you, and a couple of dam jokes here and there as we proceed through here. So, and again, if there are any questions, we can entertain those at the end of our presentation. Okay. Yeah, I would just put up a couple of other bullet items. I was involved also in the removal of a couple of dams in Chattahoochee on the Chattahoochee River near Columbus, Georgia. And if you ever go into that area, you'll see that with those dams removed, it is back to its normal ecological condition. It's called ecological restoration, but it's also the largest or longest urban whitewater rafting venue in the country. So it's pretty cool. I was involved with the Duck River Dam construction in Coleman, Alabama, and was involved with several major dams as far as FERC licensing and hydropower retrofitting is concerned. But before we get started talking about the dam safety program, I have a dam safety moment. Now that's dam without an N at the end. So sometimes, you got to figure out which word I'm trying to use, but this is a dam safety moment. And what I want to talk about are low-head dams. I know you think, well, maybe the real problems we have are the larger dams when it comes to safety. Well, it is for a larger group of people, but if you're in the vicinity of a dam, the low-head dams are really the problem, because what happens with low-head dams, and I'll talk about it in just a second, but the way we use them is just for holding back water to serve industries, to serve water supply. What you see in the picture there is actually a low-head dam that serves as part of the water supply system for a major utility here in Alabama. So it's a low-head structure, but it's all they need for that particular application. However, many of these low-head structures have outlived their original purpose and original owners, and therefore they need to be removed. And so that's another part of the dam safety program, is for those dams that are not needed or functionally obsolete, we need to get rid of them and think about what's called ecological restoration. Well, here's the thing about low-head dams. They have documented over 800 or nearly 800 fatalities in the United States at downstream of low-head dams. In Alabama, we have 13 known deaths at 6 sites. And what happens is, as the flow increases, then you get the formation of a submerged hydraulic jump. For those of y'all that remember your hydraulics. And from an individual standpoint, or even objects, that hydraulic jump tends to circulate and keep that person or that object near the dam, and it's very, very difficult to escape. And so what they call these low-head dams in that condition are drowning machines. And I did not realize this until I did some research last week, but April is recognized as a low-head dam public safety awareness month. So I'll make sure I put that on my calendar for next April. So that's the dam safety moment. Let's talk a little bit about really what we're looking at today, and that is the status of the Alabama Dam Safety Program. But I want to give it a little bit of a historical context with what has happened throughout the country. Prior to 1972, most of the state instituted dam safety programs were really a response to a major dam failure within their state or in neighboring states, in which they had a significant loss of life or major property damage downstream of the structure. In Pennsylvania, they initiated the dam safety program in 1913 as a result of two major dam failures that occurred really around the same time. And then in California, their dam safety program became implemented around 1929, following the St. Francis dam failure, and that's an artist's rendering of the St. Francis dam failure you see in the photograph there. In 1977, seven states still didn't have any regulations for the construction of dams, and guess what? Alabama was included with them, but we also had 6 other states with us at that time. The National Dam Safety Program in the United States began in 1972 with the National Dam Inspection Program, and that's Public Law 92-367. And for the first time, it defined, at least for a dam safety perspective, what a dam is. First off, it's an artificial barrier across a creek or a river. The height is 25 feet or more, and the storage must be 50 acre-feet or greater. And when we get into talking about the Alabama Dam Safety Program, our definition of a dam is precisely what you see there. What the inspection program also did, it listed safety factors that and also failure modes that needed to be investigated. And then it directed the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to go ahead and inspect and inventory as many of the non-federal dams as they could within a certain time frame. And really, the whole concept is protecting human life and property. And that's the entire theme that we've had here in Alabama. Without a dam safety program, we're not in a position to do that and to be good stewards of the public safety and keeping our off-site property damage to a minimum. Well, you can find information on the National Inventory of Dams, and the Corps is responsible for maintaining this inventory. You can see there is the website, and that's the opening page for that particular website. And in order to develop this, I guess, summary of the dams, and it's pretty exhaustive, the Corps collaborated with federal and state agencies. And since we didn't have a dam agency here in Alabama, they coordinated with ADECA, and ADECA maintains, even to this day, a separate listing of dams. And ADECA was involved with getting a study done that was completed in 2024, which I'll talk about in just a few moments. So many of the states, and all of the states, provided the information to the Corps about the known dams that they had in their area. Also, they collaborated, and they collaborate even today with FEMA and also with the Association of State Dam Safety Officials. Now, the database that I mentioned is pretty extensive. It's got more than 70 attribute data fields for each of the dams. So it's an exhaustive listing of dams, of at least the ones that we know of. And I think most states have a pretty good handle on their inventory. We don't here in Alabama. And I'll point that out in just a few moments. The NID is also used to assist in developing policies for dam safety. And it's certainly something that we used as a bit of information for our legislature and others as we were going through the process of getting a dam safety program implemented in Alabama. Okay, well, let's take a look at this one here. This is actually from the National Inventory of Dams. And you can kind of see the numbers there. It's nationally, you got a whole bunch of them, almost 93,000. In Alabama, we at least in the inventory that we see here is 2,266. Now I'm going to say one thing real quick. That's a low number, and we'll compare that number with another one in just a few moments. If you look down, of course, the dams are getting old. Everything's getting old, but our dams are kind of in the ballpark with this. There's not an issue there. But the next line down, high hazard potential dams, and we'll define that in just a few moments. But if something were to happen to a dam, it'd be a loss of life issue. Well, nationally, 77% of the high hazard potential dams have a what's called an emergency action plan. And that is to assist in safe evacuation of downstream residents who are in the path of the results of a catastrophic failure. Take a look at Alabama, 16%. Not a good number. Well, we'll take a look at that in just a few moments, see how that relates to the number of dams that we have that are high hazard potential here in Alabama. Then there's a listing for hydropower dams and federal dams. And the reason they're separate is because hydropower licenses with the FERC, they already have a dam inspection regimen or clause and requirement. So they're pretty much already covered from a dam inspection standpoint. So there we're talking about Power South and Alabama Power, those, and even some of the federal installations. They already have a dam safety provision. Federal dams is the same way. So in Alabama, we have about 4% of our dams are either hydropower dams or federal dams that already have a dam safety requirement. But if you go to the last line, that's 0. That's the number of the percentage of regulated dams that we have in the state that are regulated by the state. And you guessed it, it's because we don't have a dam safety program. But we're making a big change and making some success in that endeavor. Well, I wanted to give you an example of kind of how even a small dam can cause a major issue. This is a small dam near Hamilton, Alabama. It failed in August 24th of 2023. So it's about the time we were getting some of the legislation together. And you say, well, that doesn't look like it's much of an issue unless you take a look downstream. And this happened to be the raw water supply for the Hamilton Water and Sewer Department drinking water. Now, we always pride ourselves in water treatment that we can just about treat any water and make it safe and palatable, but there is a limit. The elevated turbidity in this case was so substantial and so elevated that they had to shut the water plant down. Well, that is a lifeline impact that one small dam failure had on the citizens of the city of Hamilton. They had to bring in bottled water, and really the water plant was down for, I think, 3 days. So even with a small dam like what you see here, the downstream consequences can be significant. The Alabama, or the ASCE report card is issued, try to make it on a 5-year schedule. And this is the 2022 report card. And this really gives a snapshot of what is the grade or the condition of our infrastructure in various categories. And we use that to number one, let the general public know, but secondly, is our politicians and those in charge of the funding and appropriations, where are the needs that we have? Well, in Alabama, of the 12 infrastructure categories, the overall grade we had for the state was a C-. Okay, well, to me, that was pretty good when I was going through school in some cases. Drinking water was C-, wastewater was a D, stormwater was a D+, and good old dams was the only infrastructure category in the country that did not have a letter grade. And so we got a question mark. And the reason we had a question mark, obviously, is that we did not have at that time a dam safety program, and frankly, didn't know what we didn't know. So what we're trying to do, we're going to try to raise the grade on that. And this is something that this is a summary of what we put at the end of that report card. Wanted to just touch on this briefly, and then we'll come back and look at it later. But the first one up there is to complete a pilot program. Okay, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. The second one is to establish a dam safety program. You know, that probably should have been the first one. Establish a dam rehabilitation, repair, and revolving grant or loan program to try to find some funding. Incorporate a risk-based, engineering-informed decision-making process for designing new dams and rehabilitation of deficient dams, that type of thing. Provide education for the general public, and then also to implement a public awareness campaign. So those were the bullet items that we identified in 2022 as to how we can raise the grade from question mark to something better than that. Okay, we had a technical committee that it was a mouthful, but it's very, very beneficial. And Fanny had mentioned the name of that earlier, but this is the technical committee that I continue to serve as chair on. I'm actually representing the Alabama section of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Also in that membership, we had ACEC, the League of Municipalities, county engineers, even the AWWA, and of course our champion in the Senate was and continues to be Senator Clyde Chambliss, who is also a professional engineer as well. The last attempt we had at getting a dam safety program in Alabama was in 2014. It was not successful. And even though some good groundwork was laid at that point, there were just some deficiencies that needed to be addressed, and that legislation, I think it failed to get out of committee. Well, what we worked with is to work with Senator Chambliss and others to see what we can do to get a dam safety program going, get that initiative going. And I'm happy to say we have made some real significant progress since 2023. So this was the first bill that was passed, the first recent bill that was passed. And basically, again, it was introduced by the senator, and it unanimously passed both the Senate and the House. And the governor went ahead and signed it. It was the first bill that was considered to be the Alabama Safe Dam Act. And what this is, this actually put together a framework that we can use to, from a legislative standpoint and subsequent legislative actions and subsequent regulatory actions, use to build upon to develop our dam safety program here in Alabama. The last bullet item down, some within the dam safety practitioner area were not very happy with what we had done at that point. There was a lot of criticism at that point saying this was not sufficient. It does not qualify. FEMA is not going to accept it. A lot of negatives. But we had to basically come back and say we have a political process and a timing standpoint that really we've got to respect. And we've got to make sure that we've got things, this is a good start, but this is only the start. This is what we're going to build on. And I'm happy to say that what we did is we did what we said we was going to do. We took this framework and we have built upon it. One of the things that was missing in that first bill was the ability of the state agency or a state agency to be listed as what we call a participating owner in the legislation. Alabama they own, I believe, it's 36 dams, and y'all are probably familiar with a lot of them, like the Oak Mountain State Park and a lot of these state parks, they have dams. And so what the senator was looking at here is how can we expect others to do things that we're not willing to do ourselves. And so with that, the 2024 legislative session, he introduced this bill, which is Senate Bill 39. It also unanimously passed and the governor signed it. And all it did here is to extend the participating owner to read that it could be a state agency or department or board or commission. And so that was really, it wasn't a major change, but it was one that to include the state dams as well. One thing we did as a committee that I think was really very useful and productive was to prepare a scope of work for what we call a pilot study. Because remember, that's one of the first, that was the first item as to how do we raise the grade on the ASCE report card. Well, the Alabama Dam Safety Initiative actually received some pretty substantial supplemental appropriations from the Alabama legislature. I think the total was somewhere around $1 million. It was two $500,000 appropriations, and so that was a very positive sign. Hazen and Sawyer, they were selected to complete the pilot study, and basically it was concentrating on 3 Alabama counties: Jefferson, Shelby, and Tuscaloosa, and then to develop and conduct a dam safety survey and evaluation study. A select number of dams were identified in the inventory, would be inspected and evaluated for safety and that type of thing, and then develop a plan for implementing this for the remaining dams in the state and getting some kind of an idea, as a better idea as to how many dams do we have in the state of Alabama. Well, that report was completed in mid 2024, and it really does contain a lot of really, I think, useful information that we can utilize in the future as we continue to develop the Alabama Dam Safety Program. Okay, this is an interesting result that came out of the dam safety study. Remember the 2,366 dams that we talked about before that were in the national inventory of dams. That's kind of a sobering number there. That we've identified dams and structures out there, and really, if you take a look at the statewide, it's could be over 10,000. Now, the dams that meet the criteria that we have, talking about the 25 feet or the 50 acre feet, that's over 5,000. So even that number is very different and much larger than the 2,366 we were looking at earlier today. Well, we just finished a productive legislative session in 2026, and this one was, I think, really the foundation that we can actually say that we are on the path to get us a dam safety program here in Alabama. The major thing that this bill contained, and it passed both houses and it was signed by the governor, it identified the Alabama Emergency Management Agency as the state agency, as what we call the enabling state agency to develop and administer the dam safety program. Really, without a state agency identified, we really didn't have anything. We had to have a focal point agency to help with this. Now, because of that, I was really excited. This was at our summer meeting last year. I said I thought things were going to. No, actually, this was earlier this year. I thought things might happen this year, and you can't read it on my shirt, but it's a beaver with a hard hat and some drawings, and it just says one damn project after another. And basically, I took off my jacket, took off my shirt, and did that. So I was showing this is part of my messaging. This was also another part of my messaging, was wearing my now famous damn socks. Okay. And then Dr. Perez kind of pulled me aside several months ago and said, we have something that you might be able to use for messaging. And he showed me this war dam button. And I said, man, there's Aubrey sitting next to a dam. And all the credit goes to the ASCE student chapter for coming up with this. I believe last count, I'm into my 400th. I've had 400 of these things, and I hand them out like candy. And so if you think you want one, at the end, I'm going to have my email address up. Just drop me an email note. I'll be happy to send one to you as a commemorative war dam button. But when we had the signing with the governor, you may know that Governor Ivey is a Auburn graduate, and I think she was trying to figure out what that was, but it was certainly well received by her and her staff. I presented her with her own war dam button when we had the signing. So here's where we are, what we looked at earlier in the presentation. And what you see is Alabama there. Like I say, we're not the first. We're kind of bringing up the caboose. But I want to look at it from a positive standpoint. We have a dam safety program that is now in a bona fide way going to be developed. So what are some of the things we have in here? And again, I'm not going to touch on all of them, but certain dams and reservoirs provide for inspection of those by an engineer. Certain dam owners would need to develop what are called emergency action plans, and then require the dam owners notify the Alabama Emergency Management Agency of any new dam construction. And of course, they would also be in an approval mode with that as well. An engineer, really to this group, I don't need to define an engineer, but just to let you know that what the law says in regards to a dam safety program, it's got to be a licensed professional engineer. They really need to be competent related, particularly to the type of dam that's being investigated, designed, constructed, or operated. So you got embankment dams, you've got concrete gravity dams, you've got all different types of dams. So the person needs to have a competency in the type of dam. Also, when they're doing any reconstruction, enlargement, repair. And if you see the last part of that, the abandonment of dams. And remember, I talked about that before. Some dams are not needed anymore. So we need to get rid of them and exercise some ecological restoration of streams. Understand adverse dam incidences, failures, and potential causes and consequences. And this is really where the emergency action plan comes in. This is where the monumentation of dams comes in. How do we forecast certain events happening at certain dam structures? And then, of course, continue education to continue proficiency in those areas. A dam, well, again, an artificial barrier. This is the same definition that you saw in the national dam safety program, 25 feet or more in height, or 50 acre feet or more. And there's some other provisions, but this is just the main definition that we're going to go by today. And this is a voluntary program. And the participating owner can be any of what you see here, including a state agency. The dam owners may choose to be included, which is not too different than Florida when they set up their dam safety program. And in order to be included as a participating owner, a written affidavit would need to be delivered to the Alabama Emergency Management Agency. So inspection requirements, and before I get into that, I just want to clear up an area that it really is pretty straightforward, but there's been some that don't really understand what it means to have a hazard potential classification for a dam. And so that's what I want to talk about here. And it talks about the probable loss of life or damage to downstream structures or infrastructure due to catastrophic dam failure. And that's really what we're looking at. So we've already mentioned this term once before. A high hazard potential dam, we will have a probable loss of human life. If we have a significant hazard potential dam, no probable loss of life, but could cause economic loss, environmental damage, really disruption of lifeline facilities like what we saw in the city of Hamilton earlier with that dam break. And it can impact other concerns as well. And then the last one was going to be your low hazard potential. And this one is, the damage would pretty much be limited to the property in which the dam is located. And so many of our farm dams would fall under, or farm ponds would fall under the low hazard potential dam. Okay, let's go back to the Hazen study. And if you take a look at the high hazard potential, remember there was a percentage on the national inventory of dams. It said 16% of high hazard potential dams in Alabama had an emergency action plan. Well, if you take that number, it looks like we've got over 200 high hazard potential dams that do not have an EAP. I had a phone call from a friend of mine. He asked me if I knew that I live downstream of a high hazard potential dam. I said, no, I don't. I did a little research, found out I did. So if I'm unsuspecting, how many other people in the state are unsuspecting? If something were to happen in a catastrophic way to any of these 200, we wouldn't know what to do from an evacuation standpoint, because catastrophic failures are quick to provide downstream inundation. So what are the inspection requirements? Once every 4 years by an engineer. It's got to certify to the Emergency Management Agency that the inspection has been completed and deliver a record of the inspection to the owner of the dam. Notify the Emergency Management Agency in writing of any construction of the dam, and the plans shall be designed and sealed by the design engineer, which should have always been the case anyway. The emergency action plans, what the law is reading now is not only for high hazard potential, but also for significant hazard potential dams as well. And it's got to be prepared by an engineer in consultation with the Emergency Management Agency. It's got to be implemented. And really what this does, it gives the information about the dam itself. Are there triggers? Are there things that could be happening, such as rise in the piezometers in the core, things that would give an indication that maybe the dam stability issues are at question? And if so, what do we do downstream? Who would be impacted? Who needs to be evacuated in order to get out of harm's way? Well, that's the important thing about an EAP. It should not be limited to let's develop an EAP and put it on the shelf. These need to be periodically tested and updated with the first responders and with the county EMAs to make sure that they are continually improved and are effective in protecting the general public downstream of the dam. Now, I'm going to just, at this point, I just want to just reiterate that I am not a spokesman for the Alabama Emergency Management Agency. I'm not a spokesman for Senator Chambliss. A couple of things I have in here is just based on my experience and research and talking with people who have a heck of a lot of more experience than I do and a lot more knowledgeable than me in this. And the first one is that the recommendation that I would see is to establish a position, a new position within the agency, just a dam safety officer. That would be, and you can call it whatever you call it, but that's the point person that needs to be designated for this program. And the other thing is to take advantage of the positive impacts of stakeholder participation, particularly in the development of a new program for this state. And we can use different models that are available from other states as to how they use stakeholder participation for their programs. This is actually in the law that they're going to submit before the 15th legislative day of the 2027 legislative session, a implementation plan. And what that is, really telling the legislature and telling the governor, this is what we plan to do to comply with the National Dam Safety Program that was established already, and a statement of any operational financial needs, including legislative action, appropriations, or other resources necessary to implement this particular act. Seek state and federal and private funds, and really FEMA. And just so you know, we get no FEMA funding, infrastructure funding for dams in Alabama because we don't have a dam safety program. So that certainly is going to be taken care of with the implementation of a dam safety program. Coordinate with the Corps to ensure that all the relevant dams that we have in Alabama are in the NID. And as we can tell already with the Hazen report, that NID is certainly not complete at all. And then use the results of the Hazen study to provide guidance for the future development of the program. As far as public awareness and advocacy, ASCE has taken the lead as far as trying to get the word out on the website, presentations to professional civic organizations. We have fly-ins to Washington. We have our legislative drive-in to Montgomery, and media interviews to get the word out that we need a dam safety program, and we will continue with this in the future. The Alabama Emergency Management Agency, they know the importance of raising public awareness. They've done it all the time with all kinds of emergencies that they've been involved with over the years. And the development of training initiatives will be certainly critical for this program. And through public awareness and advocacy, we can encourage proactive measures and dam safety measures to safeguard our infrastructure and our communities. And that's really what we're all wanting to pull together to accomplish. So go back to the raise the grade. I'm going to say complete the pilot report, bam. Establish a dam safety program. I'm going to say bam, we got that started. Provide educational resources, another bam. And then implement public awareness campaign. That's another one. So we're making real progress. I'm really proud about where we are and the impact that ASCE and ACEC and so many others have had on making this a success of this program. But I want to just finish off by saying dam safety can't wait. So if you have a dam, you know somebody that has a dam, you need to tell them they need to give a dam. Don't wait on the state. Go ahead and consider that dam as a critical asset. And it also is a critical liability too. Okay, with or without a dam safety program, if something happens to a dam, it's going to be a problem. Perform your inspections. Confirm the hazard classification. This is where we're going to really, this right here is going to be a problematic issue for us in Alabama, as it was with other states, is finding dam owners. Where is the data? Was there data? Do they know if did they do any hydraulic and hydrologic analyses, any of those kind of things? So this is going to be a big issue to get these kind of files for each of these dams. Review your dam safety plan, review the risk and resilience aspects of your dam, and consider removing structurally or functionally obsolete dams, which would eliminate liability and provide for ecological restoration. So with that, I just say war dam, and I want to thank each of you. There's my email address. If you would like your own commemorative war dam button, just drop me an email and I'll be very happy to send that to you as soon as possible. So thank you for your time. And Fanny, I guess if you want to open up, see if anyone has any questions.
Hello? Okay.
There we go. I hear you.
There we go. Thank you so much for that presentation, Steve. We do have a question in the Q&A chat, so I'll go ahead and read. We have a question from John Isley, and he asks, were dams on private property considered in the survey?
That's a very good question. I think all dams, excuse me, all of what we would consider dams are considered, whether it's private property or public property. Yeah, that's a good question.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? You guys feel free to type in the Q&A or in the chat since Steve is done with his presentation. I'll leave the floor open for any other questions before we end our webinar for today. We have Lauren Pratt that says, Steve, excellent presentation, and it truly is.
Well, I paid him for that. See, sometimes you have to just pay people to say stuff like that, okay?
Well, it was a great
yeah,
presentation.
well, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yes.
For some reason, I had a little bit of I don't know if it's allergies, but I shouldn't be, but I'm getting a little, anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no, it was great. Okay, we have another question from Scott Hoffer, and he asks, if there's a dam that doesn't have a known owner, is there a process to then designate it public, like old low head dams?
That is a good question, and that is absolutely going to be. See, we're going to get into water policy issues. The emergency management agency is going to have to get into water policy issues, and that's I don't know. That's a very good question, because I know of one dam that that we can't find the owner anywhere. We don't even know who the owner is.
Wow.
So dam ownership is a major challenge. Let's put it that way.
Right. And so, I guess my follow-up question is if you can't find the owner at all, is there nothing that can be done about that specific dam?
Hey, I'm an engineer. I don't know. What I do is I turn it over to the legal department
Yeah.
and turn it over to the legislature and let them deal with it.
Yes.
We
Yes.
just, but however it works, we just want to make sure that we're protecting the good people of our state.
Right.
And we're not doing that right now,
Yeah.
but we're going to do it.
Yeah. Yes, we are. I love that attitude. We have a question from Perry Oaks, and he asks, will there be a point where the program moves from voluntary to required?
Well, that's a good question, and that's another thing we just have to, through stakeholder involvement, through looking at how maybe some of the other states do it. Perry, one of the things that is beneficial to being in the program is that once we can get FEMA funding, since we get no FEMA funding now, it'll open it up, and once we get some type of a funding program within the state,
Mm-hmm.
The only way you could participate in that is to be an owner, a participating owner. And
Right.
so there's going to be a financial incentive, I think. And also, and this is something we're already seeing. Insurance companies are looking at, even as we begin the process of a dam safety program,
Right.
they're saying, you know what, you guys need to get involved. They're talking about the dam owners. So we have seen dam owners already getting involved, even we're not even to the point of having a dam safety program. So so that's a good question. That's just one that we're going to have to look at
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question from John Isley, and he says, for clarification, who is the dam owner responsible for making the public aware of the emergency action plan?
So I think I understand. So if you have a dam owner that, let's say,
Yeah.
has a high hazard potential dam, their responsibility under the law, if they're a participating owner of a dam in the
Right.
program, is to develop. They would develop the EAP, but
Right.
it would not be developed by the owner. It'd be developed by an engineer or engineering firm that is qualified in doing that, because an EAP is not just well, first off, to figure out who you're going to evacuate and who's going to be impacted, you've got to do a dam break analysis. I know
Right.
that doesn't sound good, but it's a dam break analysis, and what areas downstream are going to be inundated, and how quickly are those going to be inundated. So it takes hydraulics studies, hydrologic studies. So that's a company would need to do that for them, and there's some fairly simple templates that are out there now. But
Right.
the owner would need to make sure that is being done
Right.
and implemented.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't know if
So
I answered
it's
the question or not.
yes, basically it's in the owner's
Yeah,
responsibility,
right.
but also guided with the dam program, like they'll act as like an assist to the owner. Would it be
Yeah,
like that?
we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
It may. It may.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and I would envision that the agency would eventually end up being like ADEM
Right.
and ALDOT, but ADEM, and more particular, ADEM deals more directly with permit holders, and they try to be as best they can helpful and
Right.
working in collaboration with. And I think that's what the Emergency Management Agency, they are accustomed to working collaboratively with folks and communities. So this is
Right.
not something new to them. It's just a new area.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that does make sense. We have a question from David Johnson, and he asks, have guidelines been established for developing EAP for high hazard dams?
There are a couple of reference documents for development of the EAPs that um, FEMA has, and also that the Association of State Dam um, Officials
Hmm.
that I mentioned earlier today, they have guidelines as well. And I might just mention, just this is kind of another positive thing. We're the that state agency of dam safety officials actually have awarded this program and the people involved with it, and the entities involved with it, an award that
Oh,
will for dam safety in the southeast region. So we're real excited about that,
yeah,
and
that's
it's just I
great.
think it's a testament
Yes.
to the hard work of so many people put into this. And I just want to emphasize one more time: Senator Chambliss was the champion. Okay, I mean he's the one that had to deal with the timing situation. He's the one that had to walk it through,
Right.
and without his guidance and without his knowledge as an engineer, um, I don't think we'd be where we are today.
Right. Right. That's really awesome. Um, we don't have any more questions in the Q&A section, but we do have a comment in the chat from Thomas Lawrence, and it's two comments. Dam ownership is complicated. I was wondering if you had started looking into it yet, And then the second says, when I looked, sometimes the dam is on a person's property and the impoundment is divided among other properties upstream.
Okay. I'm gonna answer this just like I answered before.
Yeah,
I'm an
yeah.
engineer, and and
Right.
that's a convenient answer. Okay.
Yes, yes.
But no, I agree, and it's not something that we need to take lightly. There's
Yeah,
just
right.
the devil is going to be in the details,
Yes,
but that's the nature of developing a new program such as
yes,
this. It's an exciting aspect of it, but it's a challenging aspect as
right.
well. But I'm just glad that we're moving ahead,
Yes,
and we're where we are today.
yes. We're really grateful for all the work you guys are doing. I think we're gonna have to have a part two of this damn webinar, you know. No pun
Well,
intended. A part two where maybe we can get a little bit more of an update, you know, as things are going along, and maybe legal would even be open to joining you, Steve, and answering some of the ownership questions. But this was really, really great and informative. Um,
yeah, you can have legal, and then you can have me, but don't have legal and me together. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
all right. No, thank you, Steve. Before we wrap up, everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Um, Thank you to Steve. Like obviously the comments are, you know, hailing your praise. It was a great presentation, and please, if you do want a button, reach out to Steve because I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you to start my button collection. Um, a little housekeeping notes for all the attendees. A recording of this webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So you guys will be receiving an email with the link to the YouTube page, and also the PDHs will also be sent out automatically. So you guys can just kind of wait for that on your end. And once that link is done, you can go ahead and download your certificates, and if any issues arise at all, please feel free to email me. My email will also be in, my email name will be also in the email that will be sent. So many emails. Yes. So again, we appreciate your time and participation, and we hope you guys will join us for a future TigerStream webinar. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.